organization. It's a movement. We're talking about unity. We're talking about unity. So we're aimed to taking down the system of race by educating, enlightening, informing, and positively debating with those who have counterviews.
We want to welcome you to the Edge Radio Network, and we're glad to have you today. I'm Carlin Charleston. I'm your host, and I sit here with my co-host, Richard Jennings, and together we talk about unity.
Well, today on the show, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be at the helm steering this truck down the road because he's driving
today.
We're going to hear about an initiative that, Carlin, you are responsible for. You've started this. So
my mom used to say that you started it, you're in trouble. You started it.
Well,
so we'll see.
And you say that it's actually bigger than a race.
Yeah.
So we want to hear about that, and we've got part of your team here in the studio today, and I'm so glad I get to meet them. And there's another part coming in via satellite, so we'll get to that soon. But first, there is something that came across my social media feed that I just have to talk about. This gentleman by the name of Shay Walters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he's locked up in prison. He gets out of prison. Okay, we're doing a race, but I have to name the demographics.
No.
Right.
Here's my the buzzer.
So he's a black guy, and he is probably
what we would call black. He's not a black guy.
Right.
He's what we call black. All right.
Yeah. So
cool. Go ahead.
So and he's probably late 30s. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit older than that, but he really carries himself well. And so he gets out. And there's a lot of people across the cultural spectrum that have this issue. I have guys I'm working with in our own church. They get out of prison. Well, everybody wants to take advantage of them, or they go apply for jobs or try to start things, and everybody says no, right, or try to pay them nothing. So Mr. Shay Walters, man, you got to go check this out. You can go to my page, Richard Jennings, whatever, and then go look at Shay. And so what Shay does, he doesn't want to take this junky job, but so he goes out there in where you buy stuff on the internet, finds a hot dog cart, buys a hot dog cart, like a vendor hot dog cart, and then he goes down, gets him a Costco membership, buys all the supplies, got that Shay's sweet baby back butter barbecue sauce for his hot dogs.
Sweet Baby Ray's.
Sweet Baby Ray's.
That's what you're saying. All right, here we go. Baby back butter.
Yeah, whatever it is. It's
ask
good.
me about the barbecue.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
So he buys this, and he's making, this guy, come on now, $400 a day versus what this other guy was gonna pay him. So I'm thinking, now maybe we got that. Maybe it's $400 a week, $400 a day, whatever it is. All I know is it's $400 versus $300, whatever that other guy was going to pay him.
What's that name? Shay Walters?
Shay,
but I can look it up on your page, right?
I sent it to you.
Okay, all right. I'll
Shay
check that out.
Walters.
That's a good story.
And so my thing about that I wanted to say is we can't let, I'm a preacher, so I have to say this. We can't let our past define us. We can't let other people define us. We can't let the prison system define us. We need to let God, we can't even let ourselves define us. God defines us. And what Shay did is he says, you know what, I'm not taking any excuse. I'm not going to take what anybody else says. I'm going to make this happen. So he picks himself up and he starts his business. I see Shay as someone that is probably not going to settle with one hot dog cart. He's probably going to bring people on the journey. He's going to have hot dog carts all around his town. So I just want to celebrate Mr. Shay Walters. I thought that was a fantastic thing to see. There's a lot of junk coming across your social media feed. But Mr. Shay needs to come across your feed. So it's a good story.
Very good. That is good. Now, what about, have you paid attention? Have you watched any of the Amy Coney Barrett hearings?
I've been swamped. But every once in a while, it'll come across my social media feeds. I was listening to it a little bit on the radio. I heard from others, not directly, but from others, that there's some nasty stuff being said. And then there's
Washington. Yeah.
And then there's some really extra coddling, the whole thing. So both sides are doing what they do. But I think she's holding her ground pretty well. So we'll see. It's a fast process because of this crazy election season. But anyway, she's a mom.
And that's
she's
the
a
thing.
leader. She's been
Yeah,
vetted, just treat people right is how I feel.
And that's the thing. As we talk about unity, one of the things that we always bring up is the fact that how can you take people who really who care, who are doing great things, and how can we demonize them? And that's what our society's been doing with so many people. We got to find a way really to unify, get the best in people, because everybody's got so much good to offer, and we need to see that. And I expected those hearings to really spiral downward fast, and but nevertheless, I think people of character, and I always say that people of character, they'll stand through those times, and I think she will, because she looks to be that what we talk about as a person of character. Love her family story, just everything. It's just like that's what we need more of. We really do need that.
The approach needs to be, if there's something you can see in someone that you can celebrate, especially if they see things differently than you, man, celebrate it. Show a little bit more honor. I'm doing a series next year just talking about nothing but honor. And so there's a principle I've learned: honor up, honor down, honor all the way around. Those that are in higher positions, honor them. Those that are coming a long way behind you, honor them, and honor your peers. And if Washington could learn how to do that, man, how much better could we get stuff done?
We wait and we pray. Maybe one day. We wait and we pray. Maybe one day. Hey, what about the? All right, I didn't even know. I mean, this is how far out I've been to, I guess, regular world stuff. The NBA Finals was happening. They got an NBA champion, and I didn't even know. I mean, this is the NBA Finals supposedly, and I was like, "Oh, that happened."
I didn't see any of the finals.
That tells you that that the world has changed. Nobody cared.
I love
the
basketball,
NBA Finals,
but it's
you
like,
should 6'5" guys. 6'5".
How many balls can I juggle? I didn't,
Well, I think it says something though about our priorities now as American citizens. It's like sports, which we used to, I'd say, worship in America. We kind of worship, especially pro sports. It's kind of like, that happened, and we just go on with life.
Oh man,
so that might be a good thing.
Some of my friends, we were watching Monday Night Football last night, and it's one of the things that popped up just in a side conversation. They weren't like declaring it in front of everybody. They said, if I want to watch politics, I'll watch politics. Yeah. I would just like to turn on and watch a basketball game or a baseball game or a football game. There's some of my friends that have just declared, I'm done with sports.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, come on, we'll get past this season. But I get it. There's people that want to bring awareness to things that are very important to them.
But
it's abrasive for some, and you lose some of your audience. And I need to be careful with that in my preaching and in my teaching. If people want to hear politics, they'll go listen to a politician.
Right.
So I need to bring them I need to stay in my lane too. So
yeah, I'm amazed that the owners are the. I guess you'd say the commissioner of the NFL, the commissioner of the NBA. I can't believe that they don't understand that this was the one area, and I talked about this, and we're going to talk about the House in a little bit.
Yep.
We talk about these institutions. Professional sports was the one institution where I feel like that we were doing it right.
Yeah.
We had people who came in and they formed a team regardless of their background, and they went for a higher calling, the victory of the team. That's what we needed. What we didn't need was for the professional sports now to become like the rest of America.
Yeah.
It was divided based on race. Now you've taken the worst of America and you put it into the sports, and it needed to go the other way around. Let's take the good that we have in those institutions and put it into our American culture so that we can get that fixed.
It was an opportunity to take a retreat, a respite away from everything, and now sports is just like all the rest.
Just like the rest. We did it backwards. Okay. Hey, good stuff. That's the update on the news. And now we're going to take our commercial break. We come back from our commercial break. We're really excited because we've got, like I said, part of the house crew here, and we're going to introduce them here into the studio. And then we've got the other coming in via Zoom link. And we're going to be really excited to talk about this. So if you've got families, institutions, business organizations, anything that needs to operate better, then you want to pay attention to the house concept. And we'll get that as soon as we come back from this break here on Talk About Unity.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Don't push me because I'm close to the edge.
I'm trying not to lose my head.
Hey, this is the Talk About Unity show where I bring the talk.
And I bring the unity.
And together we talk about unity.
unity.
Unity is what matters.
Come on.
And right now in our country, that's what we've got to do. So we do that here at Talk About Unity on the Edge Radio Network. Be with us every week.
It's going to be awesome. It always is. And I tell you what, the more we seek first to understand, then be understood, we make progress.
And we like to do that. And that's why everybody's on the brink. We love what we do at Edge Radio because everybody's on the edge. We bring them back from the edge and we bring the unity. So we're just glad. Edge Radio Network every Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Talk About Unity.
Welcome back. I just want to talk about this for a second. Man, Carlin, I'm so proud of what you do. Carlin created the Erase Race movement 2 years ago. And since then, he's been meeting people, developing plans, and doing the work to bring unity in our country. His latest work finds him teaming up with a number of people from around the country. And the concept is to create this endeavor called The House. And I want to welcome to the show Martha Rogers and our previous guest on Zooming In, I guess, is George Middleton. And I just want to say welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It is good to be with you fine gentlemen. And I love hanging out with people who believe that truth matters.
Right. That's right. That's good. Well, as we begin, I know we'll get into the house concept, but can I just have this moment ask you to tell me what who each of you are and how you joined the team, where you're from, and your birthday, your serial number. No, I'm just kidding. No. And how you all got connected. I just want to know that.
And this could take half the show if we really took the time to do it, but we're going to try to go through it hastily. But it's the story really of what we want to do in the house, and that is we want to make these great connections. And so, of course, I was the director of Erase Race, and I was going around the country, but I had the opportunity to be part of a forum where I met Martha. Now, of course, prior to that, I'd been out, and George has a different story about how I met him, but I first met Martha in person, and we were part of that forum and found out what she was doing, and she had this book called Land of Shapes, Connecting Through Civility. When I saw those words, I was like, that's the kind of stuff that I'm doing with Erase Race. I'm talking about the importance of civility and how we need to connect with each other. And so we were there that whole day, and we began talking. I said, Martha, we've got to do something together. We're going to have to do something together. So that was my connection with Martha. So I'll let Martha tell you about how that got into something bigger. So go ahead, Martha. After we met.
So when I met Carlin, I thought, wow.
I'm Carlin.
Yeah.
I'm not George. George is the guy here.
When I met Carlin, I thought, wow, this is a man with energy and passion, and I love what you're doing. And I just knew that what we were doing, our missions, our platforms, they connected. They were very similar. So when we were all at home, Carlin called me up and we talked about what I was doing, and I told him about how I had gotten into civility training and had written my book, Living in the World of Shapes. And I loved him because he liked the book, and he went, this is for adults too. And I went, yes.
Oh man, wait. I just got to stop you for just a second. The concept of civility training, that sounds so sweet.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I'll tell you how I got into it. So about 5 years ago, I heard a man speak in Amarillo, where I lived for a long time, and this was Dr. Clyde Rivers from California, and he said, every person ever born has a gift, and if one person dies without sharing their gift, we all suffer.
Oh, that's really
And I
good.
just went, wow,
That's powerful.
that is valuing every person. And so that really stuck with me. And so I did some coaching, some mentoring with Dr. Rivers for a year, got to know him pretty well. He founded I Change Nations many years ago, and his platform is very simple. It's the Golden Rule. And he coaches people and works with leaders all over the world and helps them to make their country better. And it's very simple. He starts with, when you treat people well, everything works better.
So good.
So as Carlin and I were talking on the phone, I said, oh, I think you would really enjoy meeting Dr. Rivers. So the next week we had a video call, and he got to meet.
Just even hearing those stories, like if we really had a show, if we spent the next hour talking about the connections that we had and the different gifts that we bring, then I think you would really understand the house concept, because in the house concept, which we're going to talk about, that's what it is. It's about how do you bring people in with different gifts from various perspectives for the good of the organization or institution.
Okay, Carlin, we've spent a lot of time together, but I haven't spent much time with Martha and George, and so I really want to hear from these guys. Really, let's spell this out, because this is.
So are you saying, Carlin, shut up and let me listen
No,
to them?
no, not at
okay.
all.
Okay.
No,
Right.
I will never tell
Okay.
you that. But
Gotcha.
I just want to hear, what do you mean by the house? And I saw a little bit of that, what you were talking about, the house relating to the story of the three little pigs. I can't wait to dig into this. So guys, each one of you take a turn and tell me what this thing is about the house, and what's its purpose.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to shut up, but let me say
No.
this first, because I want to lead them in, though. Because so basically, the house is a metaphor, and this is what we were talking about earlier.
Okay.
When you build a house, and that's why Martha, and that's the thing. We're like the Avengers, superheroes, because
I agree.
we have these different gifts. There's a Captain America. There's a Hulk. There's an Iron Man. Because we bring these different gifts, and it's understanding that. And that's what I think the whole process for us even formulating this team to do this is making us aware of.
Yeah.
That you've got to understand the different gifts and abilities of these people in order to build the organization or the institution or the house the way that you want it. So that's kind of the concept. And we use the metaphor of the house because Martha happened to have this unique experience amongst everybody on the team of building houses. Her husband is a contractor, and they spent a lot of time, and even now they're working on building a house. And so we realize as we talk how those fundamental aspects of how to build the proper house is so key. All right,
So good.
That's it. All right, so go ahead, Martha, and take your angle on it.
So Gary and I built homes in Amarillo for a number of years, and the building process requires a team of people working together, each one sharing their unique gift.
Mm-hmm.
So from the person who builds the building pad, to the person who builds the roof, to the person who puts the doorknobs on the doors, each one is important.
Mm-hmm.
And each person has an expertise, and it requires them doing their part. So if the contractor has quality standards and communicates well with the subcontractors, and the subcontractors work well with the contractor and they do their part well, then you end up with a great house.
Right.
So it can be very simple, or it can be very complicated.
Right.
If you don't do those processes well of communication and working together and valuing each person in their part. So you end up with a great house, has a great foundation, it's strong, it's beautiful, and you live life in this house. And so what we want to do is to communicate to people to help them to evaluate their current house or building process, because really it's about a process of life. So you don't just build a house and then everything's full. Mm-hmm. We believe that in our communication with each other, that it's like it happened with us. And when it happened, we went, whoa, this is a really cool process. People coming together with a common interest and valuing each other and realizing each other's strengths and gifts, and you come up with this unique house, this unique creation. And so we want to help people who are, maybe they're struggling with productivity in their organization, or with relationship conflicts, or with just lack of passion or zeal. They're just not getting where they want to go. And so we think this process will help people to develop a stronger house. We have to embrace the challenges of communicating with each other and with the value, always the importance in mind. The goal is connection, because life is about connection. And so we need to not be afraid of those messy, those sometimes even painful connections, and press through that, because it is so worth it, and it's so necessary for building a quality house.
I so enjoy my experience as the early years of being a pastor. I was also a quality engineer at Compaq. And so I was dealing with product, process, hardware, systems engineers. And in each group, you have to approach them differently because they think differently. And to be able to build that communication, respect, and rapport, all of a sudden you bring out the best in them and you end up with a quality product, because you have quality processes and quality communication. So, man, I'm so excited about
that.
this.
That is so important,
Yeah.
is you bring the best out in them. And that's what civility skills and tools do, is that you get out of your self-centered nature and you value that person, and you look at them and you see the greatness that's in them, and you communicate with them in a way that pulls out their greatness, pulls the best out of them. And that's what Dr. Rivers taught. That's what he does.
That's so good.
And he talked. He did workshops with people to help them to focus on their greatness, and how can I use my greatness and my gift to make the community better. And that inspired me to develop a message to take to my grandson's peers. He was about 5 at the time. And I thought, I want kids to see they have a greatness, and how can they discover their greatness? So that's how I started writing children's books.
Oh, that's good.
And so that is so important in every organization, that the leaders and every person in that organization value every individual for who they are, for the unique gift that they have to share.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, we're going to take a real quick break, and I can't wait to get back to this. And hopefully we can get to that concept of the 3 little pigs.
Yeah,
I
let's
think
talk
this
about
will
the
be
3
good.
little pigs. We'll do that.
Real quick break. We'll see you in just a minute.
Between the ages of 0 and 5, a child's mind is very impressionable. Researchers call it the theta brainwave. This low frequency is the state of consciousness between the conscious and subconscious worlds. In this state, the mind is capable of deep and profound learning, healing, and growth. There is a subconscious loop that's created during these early years. Who you believe you are has been downloaded based on experiences that you have had. A bad experience could create fears and limitations. Do you love who you are? Do you believe in yourself? The reality is that you can't control your childhood. All you can do is interpret it. You can choose to see your good and your value. Try this experiment. Project forward. See yourself at 80 years old. Now you have lived a lifetime. What advice would you have for your younger self? What risks would you have taken? What relationships would you have avoided? Did you celebrate life? Did you allow yourself to feel, to be present? Your 80-year-old self would tell you to not live in fear, to have faith that things will work out, that all you have to do is persist until you succeed. Your 80-year-old self would tell you to stay healthy, to take care of your body. And it would ultimately tell you to share your gifts with the world.
A retired Marine and former school teacher is spending his days on the road promoting unity.
His platform is to erase race, and he's trying to do that by traveling the country, visiting 100 cities, spreading his message one conversation at a time.
I was born and raised in Waller County, Texas, just northwest of Houston. As a child of the 60s civil rights era, I lived in a city that was probably 100% black at the time, and that city, Prairie View, Texas, had an educational background that far exceeded the national average. Because of this uncommon occurrence, I grew up lacking the sense of inferiority that many black people experience as a result of segregation and the remnants of the Jim Crow era. In Prairie View, the smartest and most able and capable people the children of that city saw daily were always black. After integration in 1969, I grew up with friends from a variety of ethnic backgrounds, and this continued to expand as I went to college, and my circle of deep relationships continued to grow with football teammates from various parts of Texas and the country, and then expanded even more after I joined the United States Marine Corps, where my relationships began to include foreign cultures and people with whom I never envisioned communicating. Today, after having visited and lived in the continents of Asia, Africa, and Europe, I am convinced that we are all far more alike than we could ever realize. Something has hindered that realization for others. Here in the United States of America, we have been plagued for hundreds of years with a concept called race. This concept would have us believe that we are fundamentally very different and our skin color makes us so. Though anthropology, sociology, and medical journals continually refute this, many Americans continue to harbor the erroneous beliefs associated with race. This is what I'm here to change. Hello, I am Carlin Charleston, the Executive Director of Erase Race. We are a 501c4 nonprofit organization designed to remove race from our society and unite people across all demographics and bring them into the novel reality that we are all quite differently the same. That phrase may sound contradictory in itself, but it really makes sense. Once we understand our common origins from whence we all originate, then it becomes much more interesting to see how differently we have evolved in our geographic regions as one people. Erase Race began the work of unifying our country when I embarked upon a 112-city tour last June. Driving the Unity van from coast to coast and from north to south, the thrill of visiting the 48 contiguous states and meeting people I would have never met otherwise was simply amazing. From Baton Rouge to Boston and from Philadelphia to Phoenix, I became more American every day as I met the people that make up this great country, and that is where I want to take you.
This is city number 76.
Shaking hands, visiting people and places, striving for unity as a human race.
It has really been phenomenal. Number one, to travel the country and go to different places in our country and meet the people is what most Americans need to do.
He said there have been surprising interactions, even poignant moments, stopping along sites of historic importance like the Liberty Bell and Harriet Tubman's home. He'll make his final stop in December, but his work will be far from done. Carlin's life is the American Unity Movement, and he's hopeful one day soon people truly won't be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
That's my vision, that we have people, and we can then respect people and live with people.
Welcome back to the program, and we're having a good time today. We're going to get to talking about the three little pigs in the house and in the construction of the house and the communication and quality and standards of the house. You know, I'm so thankful that I have an opportunity to interact with Martha and George and, of course, Carlin and just talk about this. But there's something that just, it's the burning question for me is we analyze institutions and businesses in this conversation but what about about doing this on the level of countries? That's a good question. And isn't the United States a big house that we're all living in together? So how does this house concept, how does it work as a country? How do we do this?
Yeah. And that's the thing we want to stress about the house is that whether it's down at, and if you really think about it, at the lowest level, the individual, you're actually a house. You're a temple. You're a building. So you're a house. And so, but if you extrapolate that much further out, then you can get to the level of country, and ultimately the world is a house, right? But if you talk about the country level, then in any organization or institution, you've got someone who leads that institution. In the United States, of course, we call that the president. And so he would be the dad in the house. And you've got all these other elements, and down below, you're trying to make sure that house functions as a family. And so that's what we would do with our organization. We would come in and say, well, let's talk about how well that has been working for us. And then we would analyze it, and we would listen to the I guess you'd say, the owners of that house explain to us what their problems are. And we call that our survey, where we say, what do you think your problems are? And they would articulate the problems. And we might talk about, well, we've got racial unrest. We've got all these other things happening that we think are bad for our house. And so then our team, George, Dr. Rivers, and Martha and I, we go back and say, okay, so based on what they've said, are these in fact their problems? What do we think their problems are? And that's where our backgrounds come into play. And George thinking, and Martha thinking about civility, Dr. Rivers thinking about his connections worldwide. And we bring all that to play, and we analyze that and say, here's what we think we need to check them on. And so we'll go back to the organization. We'll sit down and analyze it and say, well, these are the areas where we'd like to ask you some questions, because ultimately it's the people that own that house, that are part of that house, who will come up with their solutions. Because one thing I've learned from George is that you really want people to solve their problems by thinking about what their problems really are, coming up with their own solutions. Because, when we first met, and that's the beauty of being in this house concept and this team, is that it actually makes the members of that house or that team better, even in that process. And so the same thing that we're going to do when we go to those organizations is happening in our team, And so I understand things that I wouldn't have understood. George the same way, Martha and Dr. Clyde the same way. So we can operate from the smallest level up to the largest level. That's the beauty of the house. We can build small houses, large houses. They all need quality construction.
That's good. So what do you think, Martha?
Well, the beauty of this process is that every person really is important. Every person. Every person has their gifts, unique gifts and talents to bring to the table. And when each person feels free to do that and feels like they can be themselves, then they can do their best job and everything works better. So to illustrate how this happened was in our discussions, I don't even know where the house concept started. I don't even know who first brought it up. And it doesn't even matter. But what was so cool was I went, oh yeah, Gary and I used to build houses. And yeah, this really does fit. So I can use my experience to explain how important it is to build a really good foundation. And even before you pour the concrete, you have to dig footings that are deep enough to support the particular foundation that you want to pour. And so we're just all working together, and it's like George said, there's a design to this. We're going, whoa, this is really good. We need to share this with people. So then we're developing some marketing concepts, and Harlan talks about, well, I lived in a really unusual house one time when I was in Iraq. I lived in Saddam Hussein's house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he shared that story with me, and I went, whoa. And so then he comes up with the idea, the Three Little Pigs. He said, Martha, you can tell the story of the Three Little Pigs. And I went, oh, I love that. It wasn't even my idea, but, I love children's books. And so when we thought about the Three Little Pigs, how simple it is, and yet how applicable it is at every level. That if you want to build a house of straw, you can do that.
Sure.
But the consequences, if you want to build a house of sticks, you can do that. If you want to build a house of bricks, it's going to withstand the attacks of the big bad wolf.
There's a big bad wolf. I want to just ask George this question. I love that you have it in your personality and in your character where you say, I want to push back on that. Because in this whole house thing, there are...
Sure, if it's that, it's this level of maturity that you need to have. Because, if you had kids, you understand how they're going to fight each other. Your kids are just going to fight each other. But as they grow up and they grow older and as they mature, they're able to resolve their differences in a more productive manner. And that's one of the things I think that in the house, and definitely in our relationships, we understand that there's got to be a maturity level so that I can accept your rejection, I can accept your disagreement. And when I can do that, and because I value the relationship and the good that comes out of that, that's why I like when George was saying the distance between agreement and disagreement is growth. Because if we can understand the growth that we get out of that disagreement, then everyone benefits. And so that's important. And I think another point that Martha made, and I'm going to shut up because I talk too much, and Richard's saying, no, I did not mean that. No, but the other point that Martha made this point about not knowing, we're not really sure who came up with the house concept. That's beautiful. You know why that's so beautiful? Because we're not concerned about who gets the credit for beginning this or doing that. Because in reality, it wasn't any one of us.